All right, my friends, welcome back to the channel. In today's video, we're going to be going over a really cool warm-up flow. And in this warm-up flow, we're gonna have different progressions. There's gonna be a more simplified version for those of you who maybe don't even have your flips down yet. And then we're going to expand that and progress into a little more advanced version. Now, this warm-up flow is fantastic because it takes us through all of the different multiplanar patterns that we use when we build a juggling practice. For those of you who don't know, when you decide to join this incredible community of kettlebell juggling and you get into this sport, you're not only learning how to do something that looks really cool, but you're learning how to move your body in so many amazing ways. Conventional fitness is so one-dimensional. We're moving forwards and back most of the time. And when we start getting into the flow work, the 3D multiplanar work, and the juggling in terms of the kettlebell niches, then we start to explore so much more. We start to move side to side, forwards and back, as well as diagonally across the body. And then, of course, mixing all of these together in various ways when we start to juggle. And so this warm-up flow is a great way to start warming up those patterns. It's what I use before classical juggling sessions. And it's a great intro flow to really get an idea of how great juggling can be in terms of what it offers your body. So let's get into it. What we're gonna start with is understanding the movement patterns that we're utilizing, that we're gonna be expanding on as we go through the video. So the base sequence, the base version of this flow looks like this. We have our swing clean, followed by our lateral swing clean, and then we have our lateral cross-body clean, and then finishing up we have our figure 8 to tactical clean. So that is the most fundamental base version of this flow. And what you'll see as this builds is that we're just expanding on these movement patterns, which is really cool. We have our regular clean in front of us. We're now switching gears and utilizing our lateral swing to utilize more of a hinged base movement with rotation, also utilizing this lateral plane or moving in the frontal plane. And then we're focusing in a little bit more on that lateral movement with our cross-body clean, where we're casting to the outside, cleaning to the inside. And then we're utilizing what's called our figure 8 to tactical clean, where we are going between the legs and then going across the body in this diagonal plane to come back to the opposite side. And that movement is what helps us switch sides. Now, if you would like to learn this base fundamental flow, I would recommend joining my free community that has a free kettlebell juggling course. And the whole purpose of that course is to build up into movements like this, and then later on adding flips into the sequence like we're gonna build to in this video. But I'm not gonna go into an explanation of how to do all those movements. You can join the course for that. I'm gonna give you some examples of how we can progress this flow to meet you where you are in terms of it being a good warm-up flow, again, based on your skill. How we can improve this from here is now adding a snatch variation. So instead of coming into our clean, I'm going to do a swing snatch. This one's a little more advanced, but this is our lateral swing to snatch. And then I'm gonna widen my feet. I can either go for my lateral snatch by dropping in from overhead. If that's a little too intimidating, we can always drop down here, start from our rack position, cast outside, go across the body. And then we bring the feet back in, drop it down, and then grab with the opposite hand to start that figure 8 sequence, then go into our tactical snatch. Now, the next way we can evolve this is by adding in some flips. I do add in a windmill, a standing windmill as well for those of you who are interested. I do love adding in this movement. let's do this first and then we'll jump into adding flips. So if you want to add the windmill, when you go for your swing snatch, I turn my feet in the opposite direction that the bell is in the hand of, and I'll go for my standing windmill. I found this a great opportunity to warm up the core, get some good activation in the core as well as the glutes, and then also look at your shoulder stability and start activating all of those stabilizers. And then I'll go for the lateral swing, snatch, etc., etc. Now moving on and incorporating some flips now. When we do our swing snatch, we're gonna add in a simple. So what I'm gonna do is go for a swing. I'm gonna do my simple flip to the same hand, then my snatch. So again, that first movement is simple, same hand catch, swing snatch. Once again, if you want an introduction to all of these basic flips, as well as this warm-up flow we're about to get into, join the free course and it'll break everything down for you there. After this, what we're gonna go into is our lateral swing, and we're gonna do a side reverse flip, lateral swing snatch. Let me show you. Lateral swing, reverse, lateral swing, snatch. One more time. The second movement in the sequence is going to be lateral swing, reverse, lateral swing, snatch. It's a great way to start warming up that reverse pattern to the side, and then also getting in some good lateral movement. After that, what we're going to get into, we're going to change our feet to more of a wider stance, and I'm going to go for my cross body snatch. Now right away, if you understand your mills, what I like to do myself is add in a simple mill to this sequence. So I'll cast to the outside, I'll add in a simple mill, and then I'll go up into this snatch position overhead. I like making sure that I end in this position after that mill, because by going into that overhead snatch position, it really forces you to rotate your body and use your body to get into this position, which really helps, in my experience, warm up the shoulder, your rotation, your coordination for throwing mills. Now the next movement, I don't need to pop that down, after we've completed either that simple mill to lateral snatch, or that lateral snatch is going to be dropping it down. We're gonna switch off to start our figure eight sequence. We're gonna do a mug flip as we come out, and then a tactical swing snatch. I'll go over that again. So if I'm here, I finish my lateral snatch, I'm gonna drop down to my rack position. My opposite hand's gonna take it off, and this just ensures that we end up switching sides. I'm gonna take it off, go behind my leg, do a mug flip to the same hand as I exit. No other figure eight. I'm just gonna do a swing and then a tactical snatch. And this allows us to now switch sides. I'm gonna go through that faster on this side so you can just get a visual of the whole sequence, because I know I've talked quite a bit throughout the process. So I've now switched sides. Simple, swing, snatch. I like to add a standing windmill. When I come up, I'm gonna go right into my lateral swing, reverse, lateral swing, snatch. So again, I haven't switched sides yet. I'm now gonna widen my stance and go for my lateral snatch, or simple mill to lateral snatch. I'm gonna bring my feet back in, drop it down, switch off into my figure eight, mug flip, same hand, tactical swing, snatch. That is the full sequence. Sometimes what I'll do, if you want a little bit more, is add in, when we come around here with that tactical swing snatch, add in a lunge, stepping with the same leg that the bell is in. Pop up and then start the next side. I'm gonna go through that one more time on this side. Simple swing snatch, standing windmill, lateral swing, reverse flip, lateral swing, snatch. Ready your feet for a mill, simple mill, lateral snatch. Bring your feet back in, drop to rack, figure eight, Mug, same hand, tactical. Bang, back in. So once again, the reason why I've chose these specific movements isn't just because it looks good or it's a cool flow. It is also those things, but primarily I'm thinking about what movement patterns we primarily use in juggling all around. And they all come back down to these fundamental movements and rotations of the belt when we flip it. We have our movement in front of the body, can translate into all of the skills here. Rack catches can also translate into our mills on 90 when we start diving into classical juggling. And then we have our lateral movement. The lateral swing translates into movements like our over the back and other patterns that utilize not only moving in the lateral plane, but also hinging and rotating. And then the lateral sequence is really important because this translates directly into how we throw our mills. A very important one to warm up and get practiced with in terms of coordination, which is another benefit of this flow I'll touch on in a second. And then lastly, we have our figure eight sequence. Great for displacing your weight from the center to one side as we work around and then across the body diagonally. And this actually comes in handy for a lot of throws when it comes to juggling. Our figure eight translates into our simple behind the back release, as well as later on our wolf flip. Same movement pattern, just regress, and then coming around when we do that mug flip, there's a lot of skills that are released in that direction. For example, coming here and releasing, and then I'm working back laterally. So all of these movements have a purpose. The windmill, I found just a great one to activate everything that should be activated before getting into some repetitive juggling. And one other thing about this flow that I said I'd mention is that it helps you coordinate the body. So when it comes to juggling, we're doing all of these skills, but it's really important to have that coordinated base of skill and how to move your body, move the bell with your body before we actually get into juggling. So for example, if we're doing that simple mill and we're releasing it, that can be a very technical movement. And our focus should be on the bell, how much we're releasing it, where we're catching, how many rotations. You don't also have the mental capacity to then think about your feet and how you're coordinating the catch, the moving across the body, the rotation, the rising up, and then the releasing. So that's why it's really important to not jump right into those movements, but build up your foundational skills that represent the base pattern of more advanced skills. For example, in this case, that's our crossbody clean, casting to the outside, coming here. I get to work on how my body is coordinating that movement in a much more regressed, safer way. And then as I work up, even more so, I'm gaining the confidence and the coordination to make this feel easy. And so when it comes to actually throwing your mills, you don't have to think about what your body's doing in space. You can just focus on the technicality of the release and catch. So that is it for the warm-up flow. Once again, there are different stages that you can jump to and regress back to if you'd like to incorporate this, depending on where you are in your journey. In terms of what weight to use, we have different options. This flow can also be used as a strength and conditioning flow, meaning I'm going to choose a heavier weight, like twice what I would use as more of a warm-up weight. For example, if that's a 12 kg, I'm gonna start this warm-up flow with, just to start getting into the body. I'm gonna use a 24 kg myself to go through these patterns. And I might not go into the flips even. If I'm using that weight for strength and conditioning again, I'm just going to be working on those base patterns. So I'm loading up those sequences, getting some good, getting a good workout in. And then I can also expand that if I'm comfortable with a snatch variation, lateral snatch. Obviously this is going to be heavier and more challenging with a heavier weight. And a general rule for that is the simpler the technical movements are, the heavier you can go in weight. If it is more of a technical sequence, we're going to drop the weight. So the more simple your patterns are, the heavier you can overload those patterns. The more complex those patterns are, go off of the heavier weights and focus on technique and using a low to moderate weight to really focus in on the technical nuances. That is it for the warm-up flow. Once again, I have a free course that will teach you the variation where we do our simple swing snatch, lateral swing, reverse flip, lateral swing snatch, and our figure 8 mug flip tactical snatch. Every movement in that flow I cover as an individual skill tutorial, and then I'll teach you how to combine it all together among different flows I also have in that community and a lot of other skills. So that will be in the caption below. You can go ahead and jump into that. If you're ready for an even deeper dive into your juggling journey, you know this is something that you want to commit yourself to. You see the potential that it offers for not only becoming an athlete that has this artistic value as well, but also you also want a great community to jump in with. And so kettlebell juggling is a fantastic niche and is full of incredibly passionate individuals, and it's a really cool feeling being a part of something that is shifting the way people think of fitness. So if that is you and you're curious about how far you can take this craft, I also have a link in the description to my Kettlebell Juggling Academy, which is my paid community on the platform School that has everything I have ever created in terms of education. I have all 4 of my kettlebell courses called the Kettlebell Ascension Pathway, a foundations course for those new to the kettlebell and you want to start learning how to acquaint yourself with basic movements. And then moving 3D, where we start talking about how we can start moving multiplanar, everything that we touched on, and a lot more today. And then thirdly, I have Juggling Foundations, which is the best course ever created for starting your juggling journey. 75 plus skill tutorials, tons of different movements. I go over mills, more freestyle movements, tons of good stuff, and a ton of flows as well. Today, the flow that we did was one of, I think, 27 in that course. So anyways, lots of tutorials. And then the last course I have in that series of courses in the community is freestyle juggling. For those who are already acquainted with juggling foundations, they want to take their skills to the next level. That's where freestyle juggling comes in. We're going to get super creative. I'm going to take you through a ton of awesome flows, and you're going to really start to explore your own style and expression when it comes to kettlebell juggling. So all of that in my paid community, plus 2 live sessions a week, access to me constantly throughout the week. It's a very vibrant community, so people are always posting videos of what they've learned and asking for feedback, and I'm there as well as other people and coaches offering their feedback, and it's a great place to be. Simply put, I'm very proud of that community. If you're interested in that, that is also in the description below. And without further ado, that is it for this video. I will be back. Thank you for being here. Take care.